Thank you for tuning in to the World Builder's Anvil, episode 308. Family. Oh, family. We'll all survive them somehow.
Don't know where to start building your fantasy world?
Do you need more? Does it make sense?
Forget any worries and become a crafter of imagination.
This is the place where we will prime your mind.
Now, it's time to heat up the forge.
Break out the mithril ingots and hammer.
Welcome to the World Builder's Anvil. I'm Jeffrey W. Ingram.
And I'm Michael Miller.
Let's sup from the mug of Java and build. Welcome back. Healthy as always, my name is Jeffrey W. Ingram.
And thinking that it's more about my family surviving me, I am Michael Miller.
Yeah, I think that's, before you even get into it, that's the first good point is remember, as you get annoyed with your family, you're someone else's family member too.
But I'm the easy one to get along with.
Of course. I'm not annoyed by myself at all. Okay. So I know a lot of times people worry about and they get worked up before the holidays, which is when you would expect to see this episode come out, before January 1st, before Christmas, as people get worked up a lot and Thanksgiving about dealing with families. And it's one of those things where I don't like to think about things that way. Your family, love them or not, maybe they're a real problem. I don't know your family. I can't tell you, but ultimately you're stuck with your family and they're here 365 days a year. You might not see them, but they're always present. If they bug you so much in the holidays, they're with you mentally throughout the year. So I think looking at how we can survive them together is more of a year-long process and is probably something to start with now to help you the most. Yeah, it's just because the only light source is my monitor, and my wife has her desk lamp on behind it, so they're probably both coming through.
Now it's much better now.
Okay, you want to see my beautiful eyes for this?
I really do. It's so pretty and blue.
But yeah, so for all you out there, yes, dealing with the family, especially if it's an extended family member, happens around holidays or important occasions. But remember, ultimately. If they are that big of an issue, they will bug you much beyond. You're probably still annoyed today when this episode's coming out after the holidays because of what Uncle Mikey did. Because, if there's someone in your family who's annoying, there's probably a Mike derivation to their name.
Yeah. Could be one of those. So going down your list here, you have families, of course, are not just here year-round, but the next thing you have written down is what are two problems? I believe you meant to say what are the problems?
Yeah, that's just a bad typing there.
So what are the problems? And what do you mean by this question? Are you talking about like your interpersonal relationships with the family members that might be?
Yeah. What are the types of things that come up that are issues, And one of the ones I hear a lot from people, I'm involved in a lot of entrepreneurs and creatives, both of which always feel like they're being held back by their families usually. Is why doesn't my family support me? And, I think this is a big one to think a bit about. What to do when your family does not support you in your creative endeavor, in your business, or especially if you're one of those people who are trying to do both at the same time, people will think you're totally nuts. You could be around, sitting around after Thanksgiving meal and everyone's watching football. And, I know a lot of people who like to make leather bindings for books. Not an interest of mine, but I know multiple people who spend a lot of time and effort coming up with bindings for books because they like to do it themselves. And I don't even know if they sell them. I think they might, like, if the opportunity arises, but it's more they just like the process of doing it. And if you're a geek, you have something like that in your life, and you have friends, they all have that thing in their life that they like to do that the non-geeks might not understand. And it's typically someone in your family, like, why do you waste your time? You're still playing games at your age. You're drawing a map. I remember when you did that when you were 8. That's so cute that you're still doing that you're 50. we all have these people in our lives, and that's one of the things. And and we'll get down to the solution, but the basic idea to deal with this problem is you can't control other people. I hate to tell you, you can't control them at all. If someone gives you advice to tell you how to deal with this, you might be able, if you use good conflict resolution, to come up with a solution, if they're reasonable, which they might or might not be. But ultimately, if you are dealing with a passion in your life, and you let someone else dictate how you feel doing the thing that you love, that is on you. And I'm not saying it's not difficult, and especially if it's been happening for years, there are triggers that can happen that get built up, and you might need to go and talk to someone you trust to help work out those issues. Or you can realize that you're letting them control you and get frustrated, maybe put the thing down for a while because you don't want them to bug you about it. But ultimately, if someone's preventing you 100% from doing what you want to at any point of your life, just from the statement of saying, why do you still do that? The thing is, you can't change their opinion. You can't force someone to support you. You can come up with ways to deal with it and manage yourself, because ultimately it'll help build up stress in your life, and that will come back and blow out on other people as well. And that's when, Uncle Jeff is mean to you because you're like, hey, what's that thing in your hand? I'm like, shut up, you little brat, I'm making a book. And then you realize that you just took out your anger on someone else, and you became that bad family member adding drama to their holidays. So manage yourself.
The biggest thing for me is getting that no matter what you say or do, you can't make up another person's mind. You can influence it, but at the end of the day, they're gonna make up their own mind. Yeah. And if that means they don't
willing to go say, hey, I can respect that you don't agree with me, but in my time, I'm going to do what I want to do. And as long as it's not like a contractual, say, if you're married and you're like, we'll be in a relationship with just each other, cheating on someone is not what I'm talking about here. That would be inappropriate because you've made a deal with them to not do that when you got married. But if it's, I want to play RPGs with my friends, like at a table or online, or I want to make up stuff, I want to write books, whatever I want to do in my time, I can do. And really, you can try and explain to them why. You can. I like to use conflict resolution to try and get people into a win-win deal with me, so it doesn't drag out. Because a lot of people, if you can show them how it can benefit them too. Like, hey, I'm going to sit over here and do this in my time, and I'm going to let you knit or crochet or watch TV in your time. You can do what you want in your time, and I'll do what I do in my time. That's a win-win deal that you can come up with, that is so important to realize, though. But it's really, you have to ultimately manage yourself, because you can't control them, but you can manage on how you react and what you do when you react, because ultimately, even if they're a jerk and they're trying to control you to get you to stop a behavior, if you stop doing it because you're frustrated with them, even just to fight with them, that is a choice that you made to do. And oftentimes we step into fights. Fights don't step into us. It's the family drama, and there's a great episode from Brendon Buchard in his podcast, and I'll link it in the show notes. And he talks about really the reason we typically lose our tempers and get into fights are there's something wrong with us physically. Like literally, we might be ill. We are hungry. We are sleepy. But there's usually something off with us, and there's typically stress involved with it too. And something will flip off and cause you to engage in a fight, because there are many times where you could see that opportunity and you can step off with your loved ones. But then there are other times where just something little can set you off and a fight will progress. And it's typically due to, it's really stress is usually the underlying issue, but with sleep issues or other kinds of problems on top of it, that gets us to want to engage in the drama of the family. And which leads off of the first one is that's a type of drama is they don't support your dreams. But when you start fighting with people over it, that is full blown family drama. That is you start stressing out because you're going to get in a fight with your sibling when you go to Thanksgiving, or your parents are going to tell you where their grandbabies, whatever the issues that you might have in your particular family. Usually when they turn into fights is because both people are at a stressed out level where they're ready to go into a fight. And once again, that goes back to kind of managing yourself. And at the end of this, we'll kind of go into a couple different things that I think are really important to keep in mind that will help you get through dealing with your family.
Can I continue my thought, or
you continue? Yeah, if you got more, I'm sorry.
I guess you totally interrupted me.
I just totally jumped on you. Yeah, there's a shock. That's our family drama of the day. But see how we resolve that peacefully? It's because we're not ready to fight.
Why? I just waited.
We're actually a bit too lazy to fight.
I'm patient.
No, we're just lazy.
And going by some of what you said, I might be ready to, because I am in a lot of pain right now, and I'm a bit stressed out. So. Anyway, what I was saying is, and part of it you covered in what you were saying, is that, at the end of the day, they're going to make up their mind. And this is something that I always try to remind myself of, and I'm a big fan of. There's, and your family's included in this, there's 8 billion people in the world, roughly. And they're not all going to like you or the things you do. And
some of them are in your family.
And some of them are in your family. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with people not liking you. Not everyone's going to. It's fine. You don't have to let that upset you. There's nothing wrong with it. It's totally cool. Millions and millions and millions and millions of those billions would be thrilled to be your best friend, your spouse, your buddy, whatever. You just gotta be you. Just be yourself. You meet someone, they don't like you. Okay, that's cool. That's their opinion. Now meet the next person.
And ultimately, to build off what Mike said, a lot of people don't necessarily dislike you. It's an aspect of you, right? And
a lot of times it's because it reminds them of themselves.
Well, that could be true too. But it's like Mike and I can talk about a lot of things because we're friends, right? And so and we can talk about a lot of things. And plus, we're very similar in the way we take feedback from other people too, where we're not ready to be offended. But the thing is, some of the things we talk about get very into weird minutia that maybe our wives sometimes are kind of like, I don't care. They might even listen and smile and pat us on the head after the conversation's over. Like, oh, I love you. You're so smart, honey. But, it's great. My wife is not a mere reflection of me. And I don't know if that would work or not in a relationship. I'm not that guy to be able to even know. But our relationship works great. But there's certain things that interest me that my wife is just like, and she might even really like that I have passion about something, even if she doesn't quite understand it. But the thing itself, it's like, it's like when my wife talks to me about knitting. I don't care.
Yeah, it's the same.
Don't care.
Same with me.
And it's something she does to relax herself. She likes to cook to relax. Thank you. There might be a God.
Yeah, Jeff likes to eat to relax.
I like to eat food, so that works out. That's why I weigh over 200,000 pounds at this point. But
he's a very large man.
But to me, I hate cooking ever. If I need to create food for myself, it's usually cold because I don't want to cook. I just want something quickly in my face as a utilitarian response.
Put it in my vase hole. I need to eat it.
Exactly. And I do like I really like good food. I can't stand to wait for it. The smelling in particular drives me insane.
Like smelling good food?
Smelling good food, which luckily my smelling has gone down the hill in the last couple of years.
So wait. So if your wife is cooking something really great,
it will drive me nuts.
You don't like the good smelling coming from the kitchen?
It's not that I don't like it. It drives me nuts because I want to eat it as soon as I can smell it.
So you're just really all this can summed up by being you're impatient.
I'm an impatient jerk is probably the best way. And luckily, my wife loves me somehow.
So quick recap. You can't control other people's thoughts. And if people don't like you, it doesn't matter. It does not need to affect you in any way. You can't make them like you. Because, see, the first point, you can't make up their mind for them. You can influence it, but just be yourself. And whoever likes you, great. Whoever doesn't like you, great. Doesn't matter.
And as a real bonus one here, this is something like my business owner friends screw up with all the time, myself included, is you want to make something that everyone wants and needs, and much like not everyone likes you, not everyone wants or needs what you do.
Yeah.
And get over it. The sooner you can learn that, the easier it'll be. It's easier to hear and believe no, especially if it's not the person you think that needs it. So that kind of works all across your life really good.
It's hard to come up with a universal widget.
Yeah, that's right. And if you can, you'll be a multi-trillionaire in today's dollars. Now, the last point I have here for the problems that we're talking about today, and this list could go on forever. I understand. Yeah,
it really could.
But this is the last bonus one for parents, and Michael will see them as 2 points, but it's 1 point, and they're inversed in the importance. So look at number 4.
Number 4. That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah. What to do when you think your toddler or infant is out to get you. And I've heard so many parents say that. And before I had a kid, I would have thought they were insane. Like, really, your 1-year-old is out to get you. But, being in the battlefield sometimes, okay, I can kind of get where people would come across that thought. There was a great book. I have to look down to double check the name. No Bad Kids. Toddler Discipline Without Shame by Janet Landsbury, that my wife and I were looking into before our kid was a toddler. Thankfully, this book changed my life as a parent, or else I probably would be one of those people who are like, my kid is out to get me, because it's like they seem to know. Like, no, I told you not to do that, and you're looking and smiling, and you're doing that. I know you're out to get me, and really the point she comes up with, and she's a qualified person to talk about this. I'm only regurgitating what I know. But, the idea is kids act out. It's usually based around them wanting to learn or communicate. They get frustrated because they're trying to learn something and they're struggling with it, or they're trying to communicate something and are struggling with it. Kids aren't bad. They're not doing bad things. They're learning right at that point from you how to act badly. So if your kid is acting out, and another thing to remember too is from 0 to 3 or 4 is a massive amount of growing, especially in the first couple years. The percentage of body change is humongous. And so you have a constant flow of hormones through the body of these kids, prepping them for the next thing that's coming down. You have teeth that are coming in their mouth that hurt really bad, apparently. If you had a kid, you believe it after you see the first one. And especially when the molars start coming in, you really realize how painful new teeth are. And then on top of it, they don't know how to do anything. They don't know how to talk. They can eat pretty much out of the womb and sleep, and that's it. They have to learn to walk. They have to learn to crawl. Everything that you do that you don't even think about anymore, you had to learn at some point, and it was back at this time. And so the thing is, you have to realize that on top of that, kids do not have the physical wiring in their brains to control their impulses. They do not have that ability.
A lot of adults don't.
Some people don't learn it, but typically you need some hardwiring in your brain, which does not exist at the point you are a toddler or an infant. And it starts to come in, I think, around 3 or 4. I don't know. I haven't finished that next stage
chapter. Yeah.
But the thing to keep in mind is once it gets in their mind to do something, they physically can't stop until there's something else there. So you kind of have to let that one go and say, okay, now it's not to let them necessarily do what's in their mind, but you have to realize while that is the thing in their mind, that they are compelled to do it. And it's usually, and I found this is the interesting one, it's usually because when they get obsessive like that, that's a learning technique that kids get, where they're trying to learn to judge how things get to the ground when you let go of them. So they drop things, and you're like, they're being bad, and they're throwing things off the counter onto the floor or off the table onto the floor because they're bad. And that's not true. They are literally trying to learn gravity and how the world interacts with them and the things around them. And so the thing is, if you take them away from the table where they're dropping stuff that you don't want them to, and put them into an environment where they can drop stuff that is okay, they will start dropping stuff that's okay, but they're trying to actually learn something in their mind. And this is the best point for it to happen. So the thing is, if you can distract them, give them something good to do that isn't dangerous or bad, then they're very likely to just start going with that. They're not bad by nature. So,
and the reverse one, number 3, I think.
Which is realize that they are trying to learn.
Oh, you covered
impulse control.
You actually covered it.
Hormones. Okay. Yeah. So, now,
what do you mean by how do I let go?
Okay. There's important things. Ultimately, what I said is you have to manage yourself. And one of the biggest things is you letting go. A lot of times you are the cause of the pain in these scenarios. And, like when you think your kid's driving you crazy, they're not.
Let me modify that statement.
Mm-hmm.
You are the cause of the pain you are experiencing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You are choosing the pain and the annoyance and whatever. Not this person's making me feel that way. No, they're doing a thing and you're having a reaction
it's your
that you
physiological mental reaction.
It's a reaction that you are either choosing in the moment or that you don't realize subconsciously you are choosing, and you very much have the ability to become conscious of that and change your mind.
Yeah, and this is one of the interesting ones too. It's like I suffer from chronic pain. I've talked about maybe a few times on the show, but I don't typically like to go into it. I don't like to say I'm disabled or something like that. I don't believe I'm disabled, even though technically there are people out there who believe I am.
Paperwork wise, they would say so. Yeah.
And I'm obviously I'm not invalid by any stretch of the imagination, but I do have chronic pain, and I've had it for almost 30 years at this point.
You wouldn't be my first for flag football, but we could walk around the mall together.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know, it's funny. I loved playing football. I was very good at tackle football when I was younger, which is a shame. But I've literally had chronic pain for 30 of my 50 years at this point. So, I typically have known pain pretty much every day of my life for the past 30 years.
It seems silly to hear that number that you just said that.
Yeah.
Like I hear the word 50 and I think, oh, that's like an old person, and I don't look at you as a 50-year-old man. Like to me, you're forever like 28
when we met. That's right.
And I certainly feel younger, except
we both have baby faces too. And
I don't think I have a baby face. You do, but I don't think I do.
You have one too.
I think I look younger than I am. I do not think that means I have a baby face.
That's technically what baby face means. It's just that you look younger than you are. I don't look like a baby anymore.
No, there are people like Johnny Depp is a baby face. Johnny Depp looks way younger than he actually is.
So you're defining like there's a certain number of years that
kind of, or they just seem to have an ageless look. They don't seem to age, even though time keeps going. And it's like, oh, it's been 10 years and you have not changed at all. Yeah. Whereas me, I looked this way.
My belly has changed quite a bit, my man.
Well, I looked this way when I was like 28, and or really young, a little younger than that. People used to, when I was like 24, people used to guess that I was 28, and there was an advantage to that professionally at the time.
Yeah.
And then when I got to be like 35, 36, people would be like, what are you, 28? Yeah. It was like I got there soon and then stayed there for a while.
That's actually kind of the way Kristen was too. People, myself included, thought she was older than she was when I met her. She thought I was younger than I was when I met her. But she doesn't look that much different than when I met her either.
Yeah, so, and now she looks way younger than
she looks way younger. Yeah, most people would not guess that she's almost 40, which is funny because I thought she was in her mid-20s. She thought I was in my mid-20s when we met, and lo and behold, we're 10 years apart.
She was on the low end. You were on the high end.
Yeah, and so but it's just one of the things to keep in mind is ultimately, and this is one of my biggest things I didn't write down. And I probably should have. The best thing that you can learn to do when you have someone causing you family drama, irregardless of who's at fault, it does not matter who's at fault. They could be the worst person ever. The best thing that you can learn to do is to forgive people.
Oh, yes. And let me like totally springboard on that. That's something that goes again and again and again. Like, true acceptance of a person is you accepting a person for what they are and what they're not. And if they come at you, and they're always coming at you in a way, and it's a way that puts yourself in a position where if you forgive them, you can move forward, then you forgive them. And that might mean forgiving them over and over and over and over again.
And it doesn't mean trusting them blindly. So
yes, that's different.
It's like, you might have substance abuse problems in your family. Most families know of someone in their family who's had a substance abuse problem, maybe immediate or extended. And, And sometimes when people have really bad substance abuse problems, when you start calling it an addiction, maybe they even steal from you.
Mm-hmm.
Or them being around your kids might put your kids at risk. They don't get to be around your kids if they put your kids at risk. You don't give them the opportunity to steal from you if they ever have. Now, you've forgiven them, but that doesn't mean you let them walk over you. That doesn't mean you trust them. And sometimes you might need distance to protect yourself or your family, and that's okay. But holding animosity towards them and being angry at them after they've done something wrong to you, even if it's unforgivable, hurts you now.
Yeah, even if it's justified.
And I hate to say, even if it's something horrific that they've done to you 20 years ago, if it still causes you pain today because of something that has stopped happening, and you really might need help at that point. I mean, because people can do things that are so traumatic that you can feel pain down the road from it. And I don't want to say go into the list, but if you're that person, you know what those events are. Just realize that they're still hurting you because you're allowing them to in the future. Once the contact has been split and they can't do the actions that cause a trauma anymore, it's your memory of the trauma that's causing the pain. And if you can learn to forgive them and let it go and maybe never engage with them again, you don't necessarily have to ever spend time with them again, but forgive them, even if it's at a distance. It will release so much angst from you. It will free up so much memory and mind and creativity that you will then be able to use in other ways.
Yeah, it's an empowering thing for you. Forgiveness is for you, the person forgiving. Yeah. It's not for the person on the receiving end. Don't get me wrong. Odds are they're going to get something out of it too, especially if you forgive them to their face. But it's for you because you're carrying around the grudge. There's been times in my life where I forget where I was angry with someone and they didn't know. And it was hurting me, not them.
Yeah. Now, the next one's the easy one for parents here. Let your kids be kids. Realize that they learn by playing, so let them be a kid. If they're doing something naughty, just redirect them. There's no point to being angry at them unless they're putting themselves or someone else at risk. Then you need to be angry more to punctuate the fact that the behavior is so egregious. But normally, when you think that they're acting bad, they're really not. And it could backfire because they're learning from you how to respond to people who do things that displease them. So think about that one.
That's a good one. The next one you've already covered, so I'm skipping to number 3, which is right up my alley. Get your sleep. 7 to 9 hours. Some people even less. Some people get by just fine on 6, but you need the right amount of sleep for
there's a lot of scientific evidence on this one.
Tons. And if you don't think you need between 7 and 9, get like medical permission. Because even you can do pretty good at 6, but the thing is, remember, that's the time your brain physically repairs itself. Your body will physically repair yourself when you're in deep sleep. Those are really important times. So you have to get this. And now there could be medical conditions that can cause you to go over 10. That's really bad. If you start going under the 7, I wouldn't stress out if you it's like one night every once in a while, but if you are an insomniac, you really should be seeking medical attention. Different types, whatever. I don't know exactly what attention you need, but go out and start the conversation with a doctor, and see where it leads you. And if you're not comfortable with treatments, I'm not one to say you should do whatever a doctor tells you. Always question, but ultimately, find something that works, because if you're not getting that sleep, your brain is not repairing itself. You're not getting that energy for the next day. And over time, it can cause real issues. So please sleep. Please. I think you need to
do the next one.
Do the next one because I don't know what it means.
Okay. Yeah, because this is one I came across from Brendon Buchard. A couple of these are from Brendon Buchard. If you go to the show notes, there'll be a link to him, a couple of the things that he's done. My wife and I went to his High Performance Academy years ago. And actually, it was about 2 years and 9 months ago that we went there. And so Eric was possibly born at one. I'm not saying it can cause babies if you go, but be prepared. It might.
But you're not saying it won't.
I'm not saying it won't either. But I learned about this thing called a transition, which was really good when I worked outside of the house. But it still works today. And it was the idea of have an attention, have a view of what you should be when you're at home, when you're at work, when you're about to do that next thing, like when I'm being creative, what does that look like to me? And before I step into a new part of myself, like when I used to get home from work, I would stop in my car literally, and I think about how do I want to be at home? Because you know what? I had a lot of stress at work that day. I was in, and then I drove through traffic through Hartford to get home, which is not good. And so
you're saying the word transition, but I'd like to add the word intention to it.
Yeah. Yes. You need attention to transition. It's being intentional with your life and saying, this is how I want to be. When I walk through that door into my house, I'm going to be happy. I'm going to be gracious, and I'm going to love people. But you sit there and you think about how you want to be. I like the 3-word approach where these are the 3 things I want to be with my family. And I think about those, and it will help me relax after the long car ride. And it's shocking because I'm not a person who believes in new age medicine stuff. But there is like real science. That's why I like Brendon Buchard, because he talks about the actual scientific studies behind things when you see it is deeper work, when you go see him live or read his books. So it's not just like do this hippity bidippity thing. Here's what the evidence shows for people who do it. And when you take that moment, it's shocking when you start doing this and you walk through that door and you go, oh, and you feel a wave of happiness, and sometimes you have to even go into your brain to find something that you were happy about to get there. But it's amazing in just a few minutes how you can just adjust the way your brain thinks
and basically program yourself.
Yeah. And there's an idea of triggers, and it's a different episode. But
let me tag up a couple of these things. The whole point of intention, where I love that you're saying I stopped before getting home and just considered where I was, how I was feeling, and who I wanted to be when I got home. This is something you can be doing all the time. So if you don't like who you're being, or you would rather be a little differently, and you're not being that thing, take a moment. Think about what it takes to be that thing and start doing those things to be that thing. Yeah. So if that means something as simple as, and look, and by no means am I trying to downgrade or pass advice off to anyone who is clinically depressed. But if you're not in a good mood and you want to be happy, then what do happy people do? They smile. It's a proven fact that if you smile,
science behind that one. Yep.
If you smile, it helps to improve your mood. You basically trick your body into thinking that you're joyous. If you think about joyful moments, you think about being happy. A lot of people don't understand that the big point to being happy is simply choosing it in your life. So
and you'll be shocked too. And this is something I learned for either chronic pain and for like depression. Cognitive behavior therapy is used for a reason in both of those areas, because the problem is you condition yourself in ways and your body responds to it with chemicals and stuff. And a lot of times, cognitive behavioral therapy, either via a professional, which is a great place to start, or sometimes even like just finding like online, like, hey, do it this way, condition yourself to react in a certain way, and you will. And it helps. Like my pain levels have come down a lot. I have physical things that will shoot out pain and will cause pain. But a lot of the ancillary pain has started to come down where I don't feel as bad all the time by just knowing what causes pain. It's shocking. It's shocking. So trust me, if you have chronic pain, a lot of stuff can help too. Go see someone who knows what they're talking about. Don't believe me on my podcast. I know what I know.
The bigger things that for me, it's the whole choosing happiness and choosing like, well, this is the person I want to be. If you find yourself being a person and you're like, geez, I really don't like thinking this way, feeling this way, and being this way, then don't be that thing. Start getting intentional about what you do, what you say, words you choose, thoughts that you stick to, how you look at yourself. Like if you want to look at yourself and improve your self-image, then start with that. Look in the mirror and choose to like certain things. Like if you're going to look in the mirror, don't start looking in the mirror and taking yourself apart. Don't go, oh, I wish my hips were thinner. I don't like my legs. I'm not a fan of my shoulders. Just say, you know what? I really like my eyes. I really like my hair. I really like this. And start choosing to like everything.
Yeah. And here's a great one too. Don't always, and about blaming things, right? And for a long time I was I keep getting caught with my cell phone. It would make me feel bad because someone would be talking to me and I pick up my cell phone and I'd start flipping through it. And you catch yourself like, I can't believe I just did that. And I'd apologize if I figured it out when I was doing it in front of someone. But I was being owned by my cell phone. And I'm just like, oh my God. It's like, and the cell phone is so bad. And I realized, I could just turn off my notifications.
Well, and also ignore the phone.
Well, you can ignore it, but the thing is, if you turn them off, they can't bug you. I don't feel the need to go into email except when I intentionally go in to check it. I don't get, I have 14 retweets. I have to go look at everything. I don't get caught up in Facebook. I go into Facebook when I want to go into Facebook. I don't respond to the notifications. I turn them off. And it's funny how much time I've gained in my life by just simply turning off. And don't get me wrong, I have certain, like Kristen, if she calls me, I know. If someone else calls me, I might not know. If Michael texts me, we communicate a lot of times through text. I want to know when Michael texts me. I don't so much care about other people.
I have noticed there's a lot of times where I'll call and you won't pick up the phone, but I'll text and you'll immediately respond. So I always assumed you just didn't have your ringer on.
That is a quite possible thing too. And I have an app where I can view my text on my computer. It's called Franz. And so like a lot of my Messenger stuff where I interact with a few people, like Messenger, or I use Voxer with my wife.
Voxer, yeah, familiar with Voxer.
And so, but I don't. It's not stuff I give out to the general. Like most people will never know that information for me. When people contact me through those, I have an app on my computer. It will pop up. It doesn't notify outside of the application though, so I'll go in every once in a while to check. But typically, your text, I think, just come through my phone all of the time, unless it's completely turned off. Will also turn off if I'm working on something. My sound on my phone goes off, so not even a phone ring will get to me. Do not disturb is better because then you can set up like certain phone numbers to get through. But especially as a parent, like if my kid was out, I could not turn off my phone completely. But there would be a do not disturb set up in this scenario with the phone number. So like if the school or the daycare or whoever was trying to contact me, they could get through no matter what. But in general, I work very well in a groove. So.
All right, looks like we got one more. Then we'll bring this in for a landing.
The release meditation. This is a great one, and I struggle with this. I'm trying to get good here myself, so I am by no means, good at this. I've started trying this because once again, there's a lot of evidence to back up that meditation actually has a beneficial effect on your brain and mood. It really does, and
that's definitely true.
And this is just a simple one I learned from Brendon Buchard at this event, and there's a link to him in a video. It's like 30 minutes long, but like only 20 minutes is the actual meditation. So the first time you watch it, you'll get like he'll talk and explain why it works, and then he'll go through a 20-minute version of it, and to help sort of beginners, because it's really hard, especially for Western people who are controlled by notifications, to have nothing go through your brain. I can't do it. I suck at it, to be honest, because my brain is always going. But the idea is, whenever a thought comes to you, you just repeat the mantra, release. You're just saying release. Not the entire time, but whenever anything starts to come into your brain, you just say release. You keep saying it until that's the thing.
Until that thought goes away.
And it allows you to sort of start, in theory, I've heard, because like I said, I'm not good at this yet, to let go and to bring your brain to a point where it's free. Because, the thing to remember too is your brain is a gas tank every day. It fills up at nighttime when you're asleep, but literally as you think and use your brain, it ticks down. And that's why some days it's like you work, but it's something that it's like muscle memory to you, and you get home and you just feel like, psh, nothing happened. My body feels great. Whatever. I'm not tired. And there are other days where, you get stuck and you're really actively working your brain on problems and you are exhausted by 1 o'clock. And that's because that fuel gauge is going down in your head. So the release meditation is supposed to be a really good thing. And, I'm working on it myself. If you're good at it, let me know. But any other kind of meditations work too. It's the idea is to free up your brain so it's not always so active, And I'm not a Buddhist. I don't know about the Buddhist religion at all. And I know that's where meditation has come to the West from. So I just want to point out that it's not a religious thing to meditate.
Sarah and I watched Christopher Robin the other night, and I don't know if you're familiar with the Tao of Pooh, but I was watching the movie, and throughout the movie, of course, it's Christopher Robin has grown up and is an adult, and Pooh has come back into his life, and here he's thinking he's losing his mind because he's seeing the personification of what he believed to be an imaginary bear as a child, and the thing that's cool about Pooh throughout the entirety of the movie is he is so in the moment. And I really think they took the Tao of Pooh into consideration when they wrote the movie, because if you watch and really pay attention to everything that Pooh says in the movie, he's very the now. Everything he says and he does, he's all about what is immediately now.
Okay.
And it's kind of neat to watch that movie from that perspective and remind yourself that you're always now. And we're always thinking about what just happened or what's coming up later. And if you want to meditate and you really want to get to an empty mind, you need to be now.
You need to say you need to poo yourself.
You need to be right. Yes, poo yourself. That's exactly what the World Builders Anvil is trying to put out there for new meditators. Poo yourself and be in the now.
Oh, okay. I really amused myself there.
You amused me too. I thought it was funny.
Now for the world building task.
Now for the world building task, you wrote world build or create when you are stressed or tired. And I'm curious what your point is here.
My point is a lot of times use the times when you're stressed and tired to be creative, if at all possible. You get home, you've had a long day at work. If you can sit there and think about a story you're working on and think up scenes, you'll come up with some brilliant ideas creatively when you're stressed out and tired.
That's a good point.
Now, upon further reflection the next morning, when you're full of energies, when you edit. and you might go, that actually kind of sucked.
Ooh,
or it's that. Good, but I might actually want to edit some of the words here. Use the negative energy when it exists in you. Try and use it in an advantageous way. Instead of fight, if you can just pull away and say, can we talk about this later, and go and write or draw a map or whatever type of creating you do, make that leather binding for your book, whatever it is. Do it when you're stressed and tired. Maybe not like carving stuff. I don't know if that's good, but definitely the mental creative stuff.
Don't do stuff that's dangerous.
Yeah, probably. I just realized stuff with drills and tools, especially power tools, probably aren't good. But mental creativity.
You could do the design work when you're tired.
You could prep it out and say,
do the physical work
sketch
later.
out what this looks like. Yeah. But do the physical dangerous work when you're like at peak
performance alertness. Yeah. And the real world task is what? Do you not have one here?
There are two books.
Oh, these are books. Okay. So you've got a book called The Charge, Activating the 10 Human Drives That Make You Feel Alive by Brendon Buchard.
Yeah, this is a great book to read if you are stressed out and he might have even released it for free as an audiobook. I'm not sure. Through his podcast or something, maybe. So you might even be able to get this free. I don't know. I put Amazon link in the show notes. If you go, it'll take you right there to, I believe, the softbound version, but there's like a few different versions. But this book, literally, if there's something else you want to get done in your life and you feel like you just are treading water and you'll never get to what you want to do, this book is a must read. And I think most people in this community, if you're creative, you don't have enough time to do what you want to do, this book is great because you'll come up with a lot of great ideas. And if you're like me, you need the backup of like, well, that sounds a bit hippity-dippity. He'll actually give you like resources, and he'll actually prove what he's talking about, where I often just rant. And then there's a bonus book for parents. I mentioned it earlier.
You did. No Bad Kids, Toddler Discipline Without Shame by Janet Landsbury.
And my point is, this is for parents who do not yet have a toddler, or you have a toddler and you are losing your mind. You might still want to read the book, maybe get an audio and pound it out. It's best to have done before your kid gets there. Before the kid's 1 would be the best time to finish this book, because they'll start to leak in toddler traits between 1 and 2. And by the time they're 2, you're like, where did my baby go?
So basically, if you're planning on having a kid, right,
is the best time.
Read this book.
Yeah. Or in the first year when you're probably asleep because your kid's awake all the time. And you think they're trying to murder you by that.
Which is why I'm saying if you're planning, because by the time you're pregnant, it's too late. You're in trouble.
And trust me, you might think it's too late. I was 48 when I found out. It was on Father's Day, my 48th year, when I found out I was going to have a baby. Or was it my 47th year? I don't know. He's almost 2, so it would have been 2007. So I would have been 47. A couple years past the time I told my wife I wouldn't have kids. So don't think that just because you're not planning or trying and you're older at that point that it won't happen. But yeah, I'm glad it did. We'll see y'all next time. Thank you so much for listening to the World Builders Anvil.
We would love it if you would share the World Builders Anvil with 2 of your friends.
And so would they.
If they are unfamiliar with podcasts, then you get to introduce them to the wonderful world of podcasting.
Take them to Stitcher or iTunes, or best of all, just send them to our website, www.gardul.com.
That's GARDUL.com.
Now strike while the myth was hot.